Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I drop my kids off at school and deliver an episode while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Good morning, gamers. I hope that you are having a lovely May. I'm recording this on Thursday, May 22nd. On a gloomy, kind of foggy day here in the Chicago suburbs. Summer hasn't really hit yet here. It's kind of springy. It's very much a growing the grass kind of day. I think of April as the time when it's supposed to be very rainy, and then May is when it starts to get sunny. It feels like we're 1 month behind in that regard. But nonetheless, I soldier on. So today, I thought that I would talk about something that every gamer has to face eventually, or every game collector has to face eventually, except I suppose those who have giant houses. I don't know anyone with a giant house per se, but most people at some point have to face the prospect of taking games out of their game collection. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I thought today I would do another run at it. I am in the midst of just starting actually a process by which I'm going to get rid of a big chunk of my gaming stuff, and that's my Warhammer 40,000 models. Now, I played Warhammer 40,000 in college instead of drinking. At least that's what I always tell myself, or told myself at the time, that when friends would go out drinking and blow, I don't know how much money you spent at the bar in the late 90s, but it couldn't have been nothing. Then I would sort of take that same money that they would have spent at the bar, and I spent it on little plastic or metal figures from the game shop. Honestly, I don't know who got the better deal there. They may have, but I had a lot of fun. That said, after college, I moved to Florida, and I played Warhammer once or twice, and then all my Warhammer stuff just kind of hung out, and it's moved with me 1, 2, 3 times, and not been played since. So it's just sort of stayed around and moved with me. So I was looking at it the other day, or thinking about it, looking at my game collection and looking at the space it takes up on the shelves. And I decided, you know what? I can't imagine a situation in which I'm ever going to want to play my Warhammer stuff. Even if I get to the point where one of my children is like, hey, Dad, what I want to play is an epic 5-hour game. I'm not going to bust out Warhammer. We're going to play Terra Mystica. We're going to play Twilight Imperium. I'd have to borrow that, but we're going to play Star Wars Rebellion. I've got a bunch of other games that I'd rather play than Warhammer. So then it turns out I'm just keeping it for posterity's sake or for sentimentality. And when I look at my game collection, and look at the big chunk of shelf space that these models in their boxes take up, it's not a hard decision. So I photographed them all, and I'm getting ready to box them up and weigh the boxes, and then I'm going to put them up on eBay. And I'm going to use the get rid of them no matter what model of selling things, where I will put them up with the shipping cost listed at a bid of $0. And so if people will pay to ship them, they can have them. And then I'll just see if they sell or how much they sell for. Hopefully they'll sell for some money. But I am getting rid of my Warhammer stuff, which made me kind of return to the idea of culling in general. Now, I myself am at the place in my game collection where I don't have room for more games unless I'm also getting rid of games. My game collection takes up as much space as I have for games to be stored, and I can't really justify taking up more space in the house for game storage. If you want to take a look at my game collection, I have pictures of it. I post a picture about every 3 months in my Boardgame Geek gallery. My username is Wombat929. I'll try to remember to post a link or post a picture on the show notes for today, so you can go look at that if you're intrigued to see what my game storage setup looks like. So, I want to talk today about culling. How do you decide which games to get rid of? Or how do I decide which games to get rid of? And maybe that will help you think about how you decide which games to get rid of. Now, there are a number of different ways that people approach the idea of culling their collection. I've heard some people say they only want to keep games that are reasonably going to get played fairly often. Now, if I were to take that approach, I couldn't have more than, say, 50 games. Because anything more than that, there's a good chance it won't get played much, if at all. My shelf of opportunities, 50 games. So obviously I'm not taking that approach. For me, the limiting factor is the space that I've got. And I sort of see the game shelf as a collection, so I'll admit there's a collecting element to it that doesn't have to do with games being played so much, although I don't have any games that I don't want to play. And if I have a game I don't want to play, I have a very good reason for still having it. Otherwise, it's going to get culled. So let me talk about the 1, 2, 3 reasons that I would cull something. The most common reason lately has been, I'm never going to play it. There are a variety of reasons I might do this. I think I mentioned before, Legends of Andor and Twilight Imperium 3 both went on the sale pile. And I got rid of both of these games because I put them in the never gonna play column. Now, I would like to play Twilight Imperium again. But if I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna play it with someone else who has it, probably. Well, inevitably now, but I can't see myself spending a lot of time trying to play that game and setting up the game, especially now that there's Twilight Imperium 4, which is supposed to be a bit more smooth-lined, a bit sleeker. And so my Twilight Imperium 3, which was just the base set, I don't have any of the expansions, so it's just not going to get played. So that one went. I also got rid of that one while it still has some value. I think the longer I hold on to that, the less value it would have. The other game that I got rid of, the Legends of Andor, I think I mentioned before, I got rid of because we're playing Gloomhaven. And I can't imagine us going, yeah, let's play a fantasy adventure game, but not Gloomhaven. Okay, we'll play Legends of Andor. I just don't see it happening. And Gloomhaven's going to take us so long. We're looking at years of play there. So, Legends of Andor was gone. I liked that one enough, but my wife also didn't like it very much. I've explained Warhammer 40k. The last one, and this one I think was really on the bubble for me, was Fields of Green. Fields of Green I got, and I liked. I would have liked to play it more, but nobody in my family wanted to play it. And it is of the weight of game that I could play with my family if they wanted to, but they didn't want to play it. So then if I'm going to play it, it has to be a game I'm going to take to game nights or out to my game group. And frankly, most of the other games that my family won't play are games I want to play more than Fields of Green. So it's very much in that category of good but not intriguing enough that I'm going to play it very much at all. And again, it's a relatively new game, so it still had a level of value in terms of sale that I was able to sell it for something rather than nothing. So that one went on the sale pile as well. The second reason that I might get rid of a game is if I actively don't like it. I've had a few games that are this way. I tend to be a pretty careful game buyer, so there aren't very many games that I actively don't like that make it into my shelf. I have a few that I haven't played yet that I think are probably in the I don't like it category, so I should probably play those and get rid of them if I'm not going to keep them. Those are mostly games I've gotten in math trades that I thought looked interesting, but then once I get them, I kind of look at them like, I don't know. But anyway, so games I didn't like. The 3 that I can think of that I got rid of because I didn't like. One was Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror was an interesting idea, but just unbelievably long. Too long for my taste. It's probably a game that doesn't go quite as long if you know what you're doing, but I'd have to play it a bunch of times to know what I'm doing, and I just didn't want to. So I sold that one. That was maybe the first game I sold. I actually got rid of it in a trade, I think. The second game that I got rid of because I didn't like it was Cards Against Humanity. I know a lot of people like that, and if that's your thing, great. For me, there are too many race-related jokes in there. The sex jokes I didn't have a problem with because I guess I think of sex as a universal conceit. But the jokes based around race, particularly the ones that use offensive words for race, I don't find funny. And I feel like the only context in which they can be funny is if the subtext is, I'm not racist and you're not racist, so it's okay for us to laugh at this racist joke. And I don't want to have a game on my shelf that operates that way. If people enjoy that, great. I'm not going to play that game again. I also am not a big fan of the judge games. I don't have very many of those. just because I find that mechanism kind of dull. So, Cards Against Humanity, I didn't want to play it. I didn't want it anymore. It's gone. The third one that I got rid of, or actually, I may still have it. I don't recall if I actually ended up just giving it away or if I still have it, is called Cthulhu's Vault. This is a card game. It came in a metal tin on Kickstarter, and it's got, actually the art is beautiful. I was sort of thinking about cannibalizing it, cutting all the art out and making some sort of image with the art, or keeping the game and sort of remaking the game as something more interesting than it is. As it is, it's supposed to be a storytelling game, but it turns out I don't like storytelling games, and neither does my family. So that's not a productive use of our time or use of my game shelf. So that one had to go for the same reason as Cards Against Humanity, I guess. At least that I don't like it. And so that was Cthulhu's Vault. All right, so that's reason number one, never gonna play it. Reason number two, I don't like it. So the third reason would be Played Out, and this one is the most complex, I think. So Played Out is a game that you enjoy, but you just know you're not gonna play it anymore because you've finished with it. To me, that's different than I'm never gonna play it because it just doesn't fit my collection or I don't have the opportunity. Played Out is harder because you have to decide to get rid of it because you don't want it anymore, you're not going to play it anymore. And it's a difficult decision because you liked it enough to play it a lot. So for me, there's a couple games that are in the Played Out category. And part of the reason they're still in my collection is that my son has a thing where if he really liked a game at some point, then he imagines that he still likes it and he wants to keep it on the shelf, even if he never actually wants to play it. So like, for instance, the two games we have that are that way are Marvel Legendary and Castle Panic. He never actually wants to play these games, but I think in his head he likes them, so he wants me to keep them. And so far I haven't argued too much with him about that. I may get to a point where I ask him to keep the games in his room if he wants to keep them, and then we'll see if the rubber meets the road there and he really wants them or not. The problem with that, of course, is that he's not very respectful of his things. He's 9. So if I do that, those games are ruined. They're definitely not sellable. Whereas on the game shelf, they stay in decent condition. The last aspect of that I would be interested in sharing would be the game that's played out because it's run out. So one game I had that I got rid of was Pandemic Legacy Season 1. I kept all the bits for my game development box, but the game itself, there's no point in keeping that because we finished it. I did keep the board. I don't really have anything I want to do with the board, but it felt funny to throw it away. But the box and the bits of stuff, torn up cards and that sort of thing, I got rid of. The other one is Mythos Tales, which I would have just sold, but my daughter, who did not play it with my wife and I, said she wants to play it, so it's in her room now. I did make her take it. She's a little older. So those are the different ways that I get rid of a game. I get rid of a game because I'm never going to have a chance to play it. I get rid of a game because I don't like it, or I get rid of a game because it's played out in some way. Generally, when I get rid of games, there's 3 avenues. There's a Boardgame Geek auction, or there's a math trade. I guess there's 4. There's an eBay auction, and then there's like Goodwill. Goodwill, I would get rid of a game if no one wanted it on Boardgame Geek. I have actually sold things in the Boardgame Geek marketplace some. I like that system. I can just put in what I think it should cost. But I've really come to like this $0 auction, where I figure out how much it costs to ship, and say, if you'll pay shipping, you can have it. And then I let people bid if they want to give me a couple bucks more than that. And then I get rid of a game I don't want. They get a game for cheap. It works out for everybody. I haven't tried that with high value items. I'll be really interested to see how that works with this Warhammer stuff. I hope that it doesn't backfire and I get nothing. But at the same time, I've had these on my shelf for 16 years and not gotten anything from them. So the idea that they'd suddenly be valuable is kind of silly. So Well, that's about all the time I have. I'm interested to hear from you. Head over to our Boardgame Geek Guild. You can go to boardgamegeek.com and look in the guilds for Guild 3269. Or if you go to rattleboxgames.com and look for the show notes to this episode, I'll have a link to the guild. I'd love to hear what your process for culling games is. How do you get rid of the games you decide to cull? Thanks for listening. Reach out to me on Boardgame Geek, Wombat929, or in our guild, or on Twitter at rattleboxgames, and let me know what you think about the show, or if you have questions, and so on. In the meantime, I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was, and that you have a good day. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.